All right, we are live with the week. What is this, week 15? Oh, God, we're
It's
so
week
close to the
15,
end.
dude.
We're so
It's week
close to the
15.
end. Look, I love football.
Only two
God,
more
it's the
weeks left
best.
after this of like real fantasy football weeks.
Yeah, week 18 certainly doesn't count. And we got the Saturday slate, which I don't really have any intention of talking about. But at least if I didn't have to work for the upcoming Saturday slate, I won't work this one, but I have to work the next one, obviously, and it's a holiday. I'd love Saturday NFL. But hoy, having to work Saturdays is crippling.
It's not just and no one's here to complain about this, but I'm going to do it anyway for a second. But it is just kind of, it's like I don't have my Sundays like truly don't have them because I work. So that Saturday becomes pretty like it has outsized importance for like my personal life. So it's actually not as fun to have. But you know what? I was looking at the Saturday slate. First of all, we have Denny arguing for Matt Ryan. And then Alec Pierce is kind of interesting again. I love playing Alec Pierce when he does nothing.
Behavior.
I love it. And
Alec Pierce is fine, but
I think Josh Allen's obviously like in a great spot. But the weather, maybe I'm like, can I get like a little ownership discount on Josh Allen? Because
that's what I'm not thinking about Matt Ryan. I'm thinking, can we work Josh Allen down from 56% to 42% because of the weather? Like
42%. I built a lineup. I fired it in. I don't know what the owner. I just did something that felt good.
And then it was a vibes-based lineup. Yeah,
it was very much a vibes-based lineup, and I think that's okay for a single entry, not super high stakes Saturday lineup. I wanted a little sweat. I want to feel, I'm just firing. I just built this fun lineup. I threw it in. I'm a casual now. I'm just a casual Saturday guy.
On Sundays, it's a very serious venture.
On Sundays, I wake up early. I'm
trying to grind out that ROI. I'm thinking about late swaps. On Saturdays, man.
Where's the steam? Oh, I see the steam. Oh, God, we got to turn around. Yeah.
On Saturdays, dude, I'm just cracking a cold one with the boys. I'm firing a lineup. I'm playing the best plays.
That's exactly right.
That's
how we play Saturdays.
Just having a good time. I hope chat's having a good time. Throw in your questions. We're going to start with some questions, then we'll get into a little DFS. Throw in some more questions later. Close out, and probably wish you all a happy holiday. I have no clue what your holiday plans are, but I don't know if I'll be around next Friday.
We will not be around next Friday.
Yeah, actually, I'm forced to be around next Friday, but not for this, unfortunately. So hit me up on Twitter. Hit Pat up on Twitter if you have questions. And I'd say there's a small chance we'll answer them the day before Christmas Eve. I'd call it a small chance, but maybe.
Better luck with Kyle.
Yeah, I literally will be working on Friday. Road. So if you wanted to show up to this show on Friday, just tweet at me between the hours of 1 and 2 because I will be on my phone because I work. So if you got any questions, maybe, larger playoff ideas, like should I be stashing this player or that player? Maybe add who they're playing in the playoffs because I don't remember. But if you have any larger playoff questions, throw those in too because we're off next week. So let's get to the rip. Deonta Foreman or Jamal Williams, full PPR. I think it's Deonta for me, but yeah, I think it's Deonta. They're both kind of similar though, right? Like I'm projecting Jamal to go I think it's back to Jamal gets most of the carries and Swift plays this goofy some third downs role split with Justin Jackson. But I guess his role is definitely more fragile. Foreman, there's just no way he goes away from playing. If he doesn't play all of the snaps and get 70% of the carries, it's because they ran 56 times. And at that point, you still got 22 carries.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, he played like half the snaps last week and had 21 carries. So I think you're getting there with the workload. And I also think he's got upside for 65% of the snaps or something that Jamal Williams simply does not. There's no chance. I mean, in injury perhaps, but they're playing Justin Jackson. That hurts Swift more because it's a lot of like passing down snaps, but it's not great for Williams. It caps everybody. So, yeah, I think it's Foreman.
Defensive question, Philly, Buffalo, or Green Bay. Who do the Packers play? They play Monday night versus Baker Mayfield on a terrible team. It's got to be them.
Yeah, I think you got to go Green Bay. Although,
I mean, Justin Fields is going to take sacks. Philly has a good pass rush, but Justin Fields, I don't know. Maybe it's not playing the game correctly, right? We're trying to put up fantasy points. We're not trying to predict who's a better quarterback.
Yeah. So you want dropbacks against. It sort of depends. I think we normally, where we think defense, we're often thinking we're often thinking DraftKings and like FFPC. I'm thinking because that defensive scoring is like very interception, sack. You know, you're hoping for a touchdown, but getting a lot of points up against doesn't really hurt you that bad. So, in that sense, I think there's a case for the Bills the way Tua has played the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I think if you want that though, just face Justin Fields, who's taken the most sacks in the NFL by a country mile.
And Philly has a really, really good pass. He's probably the best pass defense of the bunch.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'm still going to go Green Bay. I think Baker Mayfield with this terrible cast of receivers and a terrible offensive line is just an all-time recipe for disaster. He wasn't even that good last week. He was like 22nd in CPOE versus the 31st ranked defense by EPA. Like he was a below average quarterback versus the best. Obviously, he was in a terrible circumstances, like 2 days, whatever. But like he was inaccurate. So I'm going to go Green Bay. I think if you know your scoring settings well enough, there's an argument to be made for Philly, though.
I agree with you. Yeah.
All right. Let's hop to the next one. No PPR. We need 2 running backs in the flex. Deonta Foreman, Zonovan Knight, Kamara. Oh, Kamara. Easily Kamara.
Kamara, dude. Oh, are we playing Kamara in DFS?
Nah, I was checking ownership, and he looks like he'll be pretty popular. Maybe this is a good way to cross-check that ownership. But early in the week, it didn't look to be the case. Right now, I see him as like a top 5 owned running back. Still not as much as like Jacobs or Henry, but I don't know if we get a lot of questions about Kamara though. Oh my God, there's another one right after it too.
Okay.
Maybe it's sort of like the Josh Allen thing where I'm like, hopefully we can get him down from 56 to 42 or whatever. Hopefully the ownership projections that have him at like 17, they're wrong and he's 13, and that matters. It's not a ton, but it matters. So easily Kamara. No Mark Ingram, great spot versus one of the league's worst run defenses. And I'm going to go Deonta Foreman over Zonovan Knight. Zonovan Knight had a good role on the ground last week, but he did not run almost any routes. It was all Michael Carter for routes. And this offense with Zach Wilson is going to be, per usual, terrible. So, and we have one receiver too. Give me, I think I'm really going to stack up Saints here and with Olave.
I think I might go McLaurin.
That's fair.
I think the Saints are going to go so run heavy.
Yeah. Next one, PPR start 2, David Montgomery, Alvin Kamara, or D Pollard. I said it's got to be T Pollard. The D and T, they're not that close.
Who's D Pollard?
It's got to be T Pollard. Just a typo.
They're so far away on the keyboard.
They're like kind of like
close enough, I guess.
Diagonal and over one.
Kamara and Pollard, right?
Let's start 2. Yeah, I was only thinking about starting 1. Yep, Kamara.
Montgomery's in a decent spot though.
Yeah, I mean the way
it's just that he offers no explosion. You know, it's like, could he score 2 touchdowns? Like, sure, but I think that's the only way where you're like really kicking yourself.
Yeah, and his offense doesn't really offer any like when you play Zeke, you also get no explosion, but you get a lot of goal line shots. You really don't get that by playing on the Bears because when they're humming, it's because you're getting 50-yard runs from Justin Fields.
Right.
Or it's because Justin Fields is also great in the red zone. So he's not, like you said, it's not a bad spot. Like teams actually don't beat the Eagles, but how they attempt to beat the Eagles is on the ground because it's where they're worse at. But not worth it for me. Still bench Dave Montgomery, keep the other 2. Dulcich or Goddard, full PPR. I kind of want to gamble with Goddard. Yeah, make sure you check out rotoworld.com, this little site I run called rotoworld.com to make sure he's playing. I don't know if we have confirmation he's been officially activated yet. But man, like Hurts looks like he's going to absolutely eviscerate the Bears. Bears have flipped back to the worst defense by EPA per dropback allowed as well.
I think the Raiders are still the worst in the league, but against the pass. But because the Raiders' schedule hasn't been that hard, which is kind of insane. But the Bears are just absolutely disgusting. I think it's got to be Goddard. I don't think it's close.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's.
I was worried you were going to push back because, like, I get it. Dulcich, he sees a lot of air yards, high air yard share, not a bad target share, but like, nah.
But share of what?
Yeah, exactly. Play the guy. Get the guy with Jalen Hurts.
Amazing spot for the Eagles. Amazing spot. I'm sure they probably pull the starters in like the third quarter, but if they put up 40 before then, who cares?
Yeah. Like that's especially because this is obviously a season-long question, I assume. Like the week they played Pittsburgh, they was that the 3 AJ Brown touchdown week?
That was the 3 AJ Brown touchdown week. It's Pittsburgh and Then 2 weeks ago, the revenge game against the Titans.
Yeah, like they pulled the starters a long time in Pittsburgh. You really didn't care if you had AJ Brown. I think Devonta Smith caught the other touchdown. Maybe it was Devonta Smith. And obviously you didn't care if you had Hurts. Like if you tell me the team throws for 4 or 5 touchdowns and Goddard doesn't get one of them, that's just bad luck. That's not worried about the starters getting pulled. Like
I think the other thing is like last week I was worried. Actually, I mean, I'm completely wrong to be worried about the Cowboys pulling their starters, but I was worried about that, but partially because like I don't trust the Cowboys to attack aggressively. Like, they could have been kind of salting stuff away, and I mean, they got themselves into trouble, I think, by not playing aggressively enough.
Yeah.
The Eagles, when they're in spots like these where there's no pass rush,
they do it.
Throw
they do the thing.
Yeah, they're like, all right, I know the one thing you can't stop that we're going to do super effectively is chuck the ball downfield to AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and now Dallas Goedert. Like they'll be all the more confident if he's back to run out that game plan. So I think they're putting up points and through the air to start this game.
I mean, like I wasn't like in love with the Sirianni hiring. He has been really strong at ebbing and flowing with what his opponents do, with what his team has been doing well. Like he is really predictable in a good way in that he beats you how you get beaten, almost like nonstop. He knows what his opponent's weaknesses are and he picks on them obviously he's predictable in a good way. He does the smart things that we're like, should you pass on the Bears? I think he's going to pass on the Bears a lot.
Yeah, I think him or Andy Reid has got to be coach of the year. It's just been, I know that there's no narrative around Reid, but let's give Reid some love.
It's all not all Mahomes, but like, God, Reid's
not all
like
Mahomes.
Terrible how many fourth down, like
sure, all that stuff's baked in though. That's just the life we live with Reid. He's never going to change.
We don't live it with Sirianni though. I don't think they've had nearly as many like terrible decisions like that.
Yeah, it's just there are like I think there's probably 25 coaches in the league who would screw up Mahomes. Not totally. Mahomes would still be Mahomes, but they'd screw up
they'd be more like, Cowboys than Chiefs.
They'd be more Cowboys, and there's some coaches who would run it like the Packers. Like
yeah.
There's seriously. I mean,
no, I agree. Reid's still a top 5 coach, but like, man, he would be like he would be the platonic ideal of a coach if he could just not bungle away every 5th game, like truly just throwing away a game.
As a non-Chiefs fan who's like not really invested in the outcome and having been beaten down by this really frustrating personality quirk of Reid for the last 20 years, I almost find it charming now. Like I think I like him more because he's like so fatally flawed, but like he's such a genius otherwise. Like he's more approachable because he just cannot get 4th down and time. I mean, time's the bigger one to me.
Yeah, time. It's timeouts and just clock management in general.
Oh my God.
Speaking of Chiefs, we got a Chiefs question coming up. Jarrett McKinnon or Brian Robinson? I think I'm still going Brian Robinson because, man, I know the Chiefs are obvious. I think they're still number 1 in pass rate over expected, but like the expectation for this game is going to be set so tremendously low that I am concerned that like McKinnon doesn't get in the end zone. They're not going to throw a ton, certainly not in the second half. So
yeah, I think Robinson's it's probably a decent spot to chance with Robinson. They're also going against a weak Giants run defense. And a weak defense overall. I think they'll move the chains. I think Washington wins the game. And so, if they're playing from ahead at all, they're going to probably use Robinson a decent amount.
All right. We'll speed run through a few more questions and we'll hop into some DFS. Saints only running the ball. Should I pick up Hill or go with Njoku versus Baltimore or Okonkwo versus the Chargers? I think I go Njoku. He looks like he's getting back to the role we wanted for him early in the year because he was like banged up pretty consistently over the past month or so. Okonkwo still plays just like half the snaps, like 50-something% of the routes. And I love him. He's really good. But until he gets a full-time role, like he is a true committee tight end on a run first team. I just can't be playing that.
Also, we're coming off a game against the Jaguars, which is like in the running with the Raiders and the Bears. Like I think those 3 are probably just like the absolute trash pass defenses.
Yeah.
There's little Murphy appearance.
Murphy.
So yeah, I think that going from the Jaguars back to a normal-ish, I mean, this is not a good pass defense, but they aren't absolute trash. They are absolute trash on the ground. So I think we're getting a lot of running from the Titans this week. They'll move the chains through the air. Okonkwo will be somewhat involved, but I think Njoku's an awesome play. He's part of my fun little Saturday play on the Saturday slate.
The Saturday game,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like a run-heavy game, but you're going to say the same thing, at least from the Titans side, about any time they face a bad run defense. We know that's how they're going to attack. So at least with Njoku, it really does look like he has a strong role. Taysom Hill's probably fine. We don't even care if they run the ball a lot. That's where you get most of his value, I think. Like, he doesn't get targeted almost ever.
Yeah, I think Njoku's just in a good enough spot where and he's got a little bit of downhill juice. They're talking about throwing it downfield juice. They're talking about throwing it downfield a little more.
Yeah.
Thinking about Henry started talking about downhill.
Bam Knight, Jamal Williams, Jarek, or Deontay Johnson. 2, let me go Jamal and Bam. Do you have a different? I'm not playing Deontay Johnson. Couldn't imagine doing that.
Look,
Don't you?
If you're looking for
Murphy, bite him, Murphy.
He's still like 4th in open score. Like, I think it could happen. I actually think Pickett is it might be worse than Trubisky. So I kind of think it's a good thing.
Do we know it's Trubisky though? Because early in the week,
Pickett's doubtful.
But early in the week, they were saying Mason Rudolph might actually play.
Oh God.
Yeah,
okay,
right.
That's enough to scare me away.
And actually, it's not only they were saying he was going to play; he might play. It was, I believe, the Athletics Mark. I hope I say his name right, Kabley or Kabley or something. He's a good Pittsburgh beat reporter. He actually said he thought a slight edge towards Mason Rudolph if you had to pick a guy on Wednesday. So obviously, we get more information as the week goes on. But like, that's like an all-time terrible spot.
I'm not touching that. Not touching that then. That gets to be Bam and Jamal.
Yep. Goddard or Njoku.
At this point, I think I would go Njoku.
Me too. White or Swift.
White.
Yeah, definitely. Literally, the role White is playing right now is kind of like the upside scenario for Swift.
That's the upside case.
Swift is obviously
better.
If he gets that role, he will outperform White. I just believe that's how much more talented he is. But I don't have
way more explosive.
Yeah. I don't have any faith that he gets that role though.
Yeah.
In a bind, stick with Tua, take Tannehill or Daniel Jones. I think I'm still going Tua. I mean, I'm definitely not playing Tannehill. They're not going to have Treylon Burks this week, and he's been dreadful without Treylon Burks. Like, I don't. Maybe the good matchup because the Chargers aren't a great or a great pass defense pace over it. But I think the fact that they're just going to be able to run at will with Derrick Henry, maybe you get some sort of efficiency boost on an incredibly low volume.
I think you got to stick with Tua. This isn't even close to me. Like, we're playing a game where ceiling is really what matters, even in season long, and especially a quarterback. Like, your floor on Tua isn't 0. He's still a quarterback. So I don't know if he gets you 10 points or whatever. Like, that's obviously horrible, but he's the only one of these guys that has a ceiling, and I think his ceiling, he's still reasonably likely to hit it.
So who'd you start in a super flex spot? Darnold, Zach Wilson, or Slayton? I'll use this to transition us into DFS because what's Zach Wilson's ADOT? Does he throw deep balls? I've never really had to process.
It doesn't matter what he throws. He can't throw to anyone.
He plays such a bad.
It's all hypothetical. He's hypothetically throwing.
Lions are so bad, and there's a strong
Darnold
potential.
Start Darnold.
I don't know.
He's actually in a good spot, man.
I think they're in a good spot to run 45 times. They have been terrified of letting Darnold throw. Like, negative
other
15.
options, Darius Slayton. I've touted Slayton as like a deep flex, but you're not starting him in super flex over Darnold. You start Darnold.
I'm fine with Darnold. I think I'd go Zach Wilson.
Okay.
Yeah, Zach Wilson's in a great spot. He is terrible. He is maybe the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. Probably.
I think Zach Wilson was less efficient than Sam Darnold last year. I'm gonna pull up Ben Baldwin's site. Get the EPA per play over the last 2 seasons. I bet you that Darnold's been better, and Darnold's been terrible.
Yeah, I'd buy that.
This is how bad that Zach Wilson has been. He's been awful.
Yeah, I buy that. I buy that he's been worse. I will not be in any way. None of this argument is centered around the idea that Zach Wilson is anything other than one of the 5 worst, one of the 3 to two worst starting quarterbacks.
No, I get it, dude. You love him. You love him.
No. But boy, the Lions just get eviscerated every week through the air. And Zach Wilson.
Not every week. They shut down Trevor Lawrence a couple weeks ago.
That's true. Well, he didn't even have a bad game, too. He just didn't have an efficient game. Like, his EPA was, like, middling in that game, but it was fine.
Sam Darnold, 36th in EPA per play of 38 quarterbacks. Davis Mills, 37th. Zach Wilson, 38. Sam Darnold, 36th in accuracy among all quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield, 37th. Zach Wilson, 38. We're starting Darnold here.
Are they
slightly less bad?
It sounds like they're close, though. And one of them
They're not.
Okay.
Darnold's CPOE is minus 4.1.
Okay.
Zach Wilson's is minus 8.4. He's literally twice as bad as the third worst quarterback in the league. That's how bad his accuracy is. It's unbelievable.
He's so bad. And with that brain-rotting decision, thinking about playing Zach Wilson, we'll move into quarterback. This slate, I mean, it feels like there are 2 to 3, like it's a real haves and have-nots kind of slate. Kansas City is going to be super popular because even though they're going to eviscerate Houston, I believe they're still the highest pass rate over expected team in the NFL. They may pull their starters in the fourth quarter. The reason they get there is almost certainly because Mahomes has thrown 4 touchdowns. You know
what I think the trap is? Not to derail us, but if Pacheco is going to be big time chalk, I think that's a big trap. Is he? Is he going to be chalk?
No, he's
not going to be chalk. So bad take.
So he is not projected. I'm seeing him around like 12%. I've seen him anywhere as high as like 15, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets higher. Like he seems like the automatic, like normie brain tier 2 play, right? Like I'm not playing Mahomes. I'm playing Pacheco. It's a great matchup versus terrible Houston run defense. Teams they're like the number 31 team in pass rate over expected faced. Every team runs against them because you've never been afraid of Houston coming back on you in your life. So I don't think he's going to ever project to be super popular because he's like a 2-down banger who hasn't really done much. I think he's like a prime steam candidate, though. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay. I think I'm going to try to cool it on any steam because the most obvious thing to me is like if you're not playing the Chiefs game and you're playing the Hurts game, you're going to Burrow, you're going to Herbert maybe, then you're like, oh, I can just plug in a piece of the Chiefs game. I get that, the Chiefs game goes this other way, goes this run heavy way, and I get both. I get to kind of double dip here with get my Chiefs action, and then this other game that I like is going to be my main stack. It just feels too easy, and he's cheap. And a lot of the stuff that we want to do is expensive. If we're going to Hurts, it's like Hurts, Burrow.
It's a pay up at quarterback spot. It's a pay up at running or at receiver spot, and there are even some running backs to pay up for. So if you get to dip down to 5,900 Pacheco like that, the lineup, it's a build itself spot if you're not playing Mahomes. And like I do try and avoid the very level 2 build itself lineups.
Yeah, okay. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it. And it does feel like they're going to put up points through the air, and then Pacheco's a starter. Like if he gets, I mean, if anything, this could be the week you need Ronald Jones.
Yeah, I assume you advanced some Ronald Jones.
Oh my God, are you kidding? I definitely did. Let me pull up on my advance rate. It's gotta have like at least 12%.
I was clicking through some DK teams and I saw one. I doubt I had any more than that. But I saw one. So that spot, Mahomes super popular. One way I think it's feasible that Mahomes doesn't get there is that we have both Kadarius Toney and Mecole Hardman maybe coming back. Obviously, I don't think anything's official yet, but like they will at this point have 5 viable tight end receiver pass catchers plus a clearly a viable running back pass catcher. Like, do you have any vindication or any sort of conviction on where the targets are going other than Kelsey, obviously?
Juju. I think Juju's, reliable to an extent. And then after that, I think no. MVS has been he's been terrible. He's
so useless, man. He is like
he's third to last in open score. AJ Green and Julio Jones are the only receivers who are worse. I think he's washed. He's a washed deep threat. I just don't see how you're playing him.
Yeah, he's a complete
So,
scarecrow. Like he just goes out there and just stands there and blows into the wind and doesn't actually do anything.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just down to 2 players then. It's just Juju. I mean, it's down to 2 players we can predict. Like, would it shock me if like Miko ends up playing, catching a long touchdown? No, he kind of does that. But really, 2 players I'd be interested in stacking. Is Brandon Cooks going to play? Because he DNP'd to start the week. Supposedly, Aaron Wilson, longtime Houston beat reporter, basically said he wasn't going to play. And then he was just at practice for full reps.
The problem with Brandon Cooks playing is that I think it destroys Cris more.
I know. Cris Moore, I think you said this. I don't know, someone. He was like Devontae Adams last week.
I think it sounds more like Denny.
He led all receivers in weighted opportunity rating. He had like a 50-some% air guard share, 30-some% target share. Like, I mean,
I'm
not
playing
sure.
on the outside. That's the thing that you have to realize with Moore is that he's traditionally, or I would say like typically, when one of Nico Collins or Brandon Cooks is healthy, he'll be involved, but like as a slot guy, and it was very much the third option. Philip Dorsett's sort of the next man up on the outside, not Moore.
Mm-hmm.
And so like last week, he was playing some of his snaps in the slot, but primarily on the outside. That all goes away if Brandon Cooks is playing. And I know this is like a deep DFS point, but I just think I would just be staying away from Cris Moore if Brandon Cooks is going. And I'm pretty interested in him if Cooks is out.
Yeah, me too. So let's assume let's assume Brandon Cooks is in right now. Would you just not even run it back, which I think is probably fine?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be struggling to like know what to do with this game. I don't think I'm going to play a lot of this game. Like,
all right, fair enough.
I have all the issues I normally have with the Chiefs of trying to predict where it's going, and then I have, are they going to play the whole game? And then I have like, Mahomes is going to be chalky. So I think I'm okay. I don't think I need to figure out how this game's going to go. I think that everything's so spread out. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to bet against the field, and I'm doing small field stuff. So, there's only so many like Mahomes combos that I have to fade.
Yeah, if MVS or Mecole or Noah Gray, like those guys go out and score a long touchdown, you're loving that. You didn't play any of them and you're loving it because they're 1.2% owned in your small field stuff. And it almost knocks out all of the other Mahomes stacks because they all are now getting one fewer touchdown from Juju, from Kelsey, or if they played McKinnon or whatever. So you're fine with that. You're almost rooting for these nobody touchdowns.
It does look like Juju won't be super popular. So maybe Mahomes, and I'm not a big Juju guy, but if he's going to be, somewhat under the radar. But see, the problem with Juju is he's a volume-based play. So are you getting the volume?
Mm-hmm.
If dropbacks are reduced, that's awful for Juju. He actually has shown some occasional yak explosion, but I'm kind of not buying on that going forward. So I don't know, man.
All right, so what are you playing?
I actually wonder if this game going to be chalky. Like, it's not a fun one to build.
I think because tight end is so terrible, it's a lot of people will just play Kelsey Mahomes. I mean, they have team total correlates pretty well to ownership, especially stack ownership, and they have the highest team total by a mile. So and Kelsey is a phenomenal play. Obviously, like he's on pace to have one of the most red zone targeted seasons in the NFL. He's like up there in touchdowns. He is the highest tight end in every receiving metric, essentially.
Yeah,
he's just a number one wide receiver for Patrick Mahomes. And he's 7,800. Like, he's not even that expensive. Like, he could be
underpriced. Yeah,
he could be 8.5, and I'd be like, yeah, that checks out as well. So, I think it will almost. I agree though. I think almost all of the Kansas City stack ownership will be Kelsey Mahomes. I agree, Juju probably not that popular. But moving on, what game are you playing? I think I might have a little bit of a guess.
Eagles.
But, yeah,
give me the Eagles. I love and that's going to be popular too.
Yeah, they didn't look like they were going to project for super popular early in the week, but the more I look at it, I do think it'll get some ownership.
The targets are condensed. Now, maybe we have Dallas Goedert back, which, hurts the condensed nature of this passing game, but like I know I can play AJ Brown, and Devontae Smith has been very reliable with his target share recently. They're also like they're looking overpriced based on the projections I'm looking at. So
yeah,
like
that's why I think ownership projections have come up, but that's why in the past 3 times we've seen Hurts on the main slate, he's been like 6.5, 5.9, and 6 flat ownership. Is because if you're playing like with an optimizer, you just don't get them. They just never project. Like no one's going to project him to throw 3 long touchdowns in a game, even though he does it all the time. Like
I am.
that's the thing is like, if you are playing them, you're saying, well, I projected it that way and I'm not going to be right all the time, but when I am right, I will crush you. And ownership has yet this season to reflect that for Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. So I think, AJ Brown, I think, is again in one of these absolute perfect spots. I think on the other thing I like about this game is that I can use Cole Kmet on the other side. And he's also not projecting he's not projecting all that well, and he's not projecting to be chalky. So, and I get tight end taken care of. He's 4,000, so he's not like the cheapest punt, but he's running like every single route. His route shares, route rates are up in the 95% range. Pretty rare stuff for a tight end. Looks like they're not going to have Chase Claypool. Like, I just think he's essentially going to be playing wide receiver this week. Bears, I think, will be trailing. So I don't even think I need to worry about including Goddard. I can do it as a single with AJ Brown. That's probably how I'll do it with a Kmet bring back. If Goddard doesn't go, though, I'm fine doing it as a double with Smith.
Yeah, I like that too. Actually, I think that's like the all-time play. What is the only other play I'd really consider is if Goddard doesn't play, Quez Watkins, who's been playing a lot of snaps, has a reasonably high ADOT. It's like, I guess though, really, he has one 80-yard game this year, 169-yard game. He just doesn't get the ball enough. Like if he had a chance to get 7 targets, you'd really consider it. But any love for you for Quez Watkins? I'm not.
I don't think it's crazy. It's got to be Goddard's out for sure.
Yes.
And we lost Elijah Moore with the Zach Wilson news, so need to find other salary. We might lose Cris Moore, so we're losing all our Moores. We need to find other salary savings.
So looking quickly to the other side of this game, like you said, don't think we're gonna have Chase Claypool. Obviously, Darnell Mooney not playing. I know it's a tough matchup for him. I can still play Justin Fields. He's not projecting for high ownership. He is like the QB1 over the past month and a half or whatever. Like again, you can just in no universe, if you're doing mathematical projections, get him to a place where you're like, oh, he's gonna be the quarterback 1 this week. But consistently, he has shown that he is like the most athletic quarterback. He's the best athlete to take the field in any game he steps on the field into. And that gives you some 50-yard rushing touchdown upside, like more so than anyone else, obviously. So if he's like, I'm looking at ownership projections, he's in the shadow realm. No one's playing him. Like I'll always play the guy who can easily get to 150 yards on the ground. And he chucks it. He throws it deep. Like he's got a chance for 200 on like 25 passes. So
yeah, I'm not opposed. There's a chance that I end up doing the lineup I described as Fields, Kmet, AJ Brown. Because obviously Hurts is like a better bet, but I might end up needing that salary as I look at the slate. It's sort of a slate where there's a lot of fun, expensive stuff.
Yeah.
And we're losing salary saving wide receivers, as I just mentioned. So I think that would be like plausible. I'd much rather play it from the Hurts side, but is this a bad matchup for Fields, really, for fantasy? Like, is it a matchup where he might throw a pick or, embarrass himself or whatever occasionally? Sure. But he could run all over the Eagles. The Eagles I
actually have that written up in the DFS article, is that, like, yeah, he's probably not going to have great success through the air. If he gets there...
You don't play in EPA leagues.
Yeah, exactly. If he gets to 220 through the air, it probably came relatively inefficiently, but he's second among all quarterbacks in total design runs, and he's first in scrambles by a country mile. So like clearly the way we beat the Eagles, we talked about it, is on the ground. And just because he's not a running back doesn't mean his efficiency on the ground doesn't count as a great, mismatch versus the Eagles. So I actually agree. Like, yeah, I think they probably get stumped this game. But it could be a lot of fantasy points in the midst of that stomp. So I'm probably playing a lot of Fields.
And I don't know. Maybe they don't get stomped. Like the Eagles have been very vulnerable on the ground. They were great 2 weeks ago, back to mediocre before that. Even with Jordan Davis in the lineup to begin the season, they weren't good against the run. So I don't think that's been like, a transformative type of return on their defensive line. So, yeah, I mean, maybe we could get something like we saw at Hurts when he played Green Bay. That's a game where he put up 157 on the ground. And that's a run funnel, weak against the run type of defense. And it turned out that Hurts was the guy who benefited there. Like, if we're thinking about playing David Montgomery in any week, probably a good week for Fields.
That's a good point. It's a good point. We'll get back to questions in a little bit. I want to ask you about 2 more games, and if you got any other sneaky ones you can throw out. One of them that I figure will draw a decent amount of ownership because everyone's like slightly underpriced, at least from the Jacksonville side, is Jacksonville-Dallas. 48 total looks great, and the spread is actually closer than I would have thought, frankly, at just Dallas -4. So both teams have reasonable implied team totals. To me, like, I get bad vibes about Trevor Lawrence going into the absolute blade that has been the Dallas defense. He's struggled under pressure. And although he's really played well over the past 5 weeks, off the top of my head, the defenses he's played are 18th, 21st, 26th, 30th, and like 31st in EPA allowed per dropback. He has not faced one above average defense, and he has faced the second worst and the third worst EPA defense over that span. He's got like 11 or 12 touchdowns, no picks, I think. But like, he's a good quarterback. I expect him to kind of truck over some of these bad defenses. And I don't know how I feel. I know kind of how I feel. It's a very low floor spot. And if they're going to be somewhat popular, I don't think this will be the chalkiest game. But I've also been like, just listening around some podcasts, and other sites seem to also think this will be popular. So if that's the case, I'd play none in this game.
I'm kind of shocked that it's going to be a popular spot. Like ETN, I'm seeing is going to be really chalky, and I guess that's just related to his price.
His 6, price, his role.
Yeah.
Teams run on Dallas.
I don't know, man. I thought the emotions would be getting to the field here a little bit more. Like, I've played ETN the last 2 weeks. It's absolutely
3.2 points, 8.6 points, 0.3 points, and 10 points in his past 4 games.
I was all over the AJ Brown Titans stuff, and I had ETN on the best version of it. And it's like, well, that's that could have been a GPP win, and now it's not. Thanks, Travis. Thanks, bud. So, I don't know. I thought the emotions would be, I was like proud of myself. I'm going right back to ETN here. I'm going right back to ETN. And now I see the field is. What a bummer. What a bummer. But I do think that, so if I'm making the case for this game, Jaguars have a good offensive line. So I think they're not going to be like terrified to drop back against the Cowboys. I also think, they will be balanced. They're not a one-dimensional team. They have a legitimate, ETN is like a legitimate threat in the run game because he's explosive. Yeah, he's going to not have the highest success rate or whatever, but he doesn't actually have a terrible success rate. He's not pure boom. He's not Ken Walker. He's not pure boom bust. And he does provide some, real explosiveness on the ground. And then, Lawrence is playing pretty well. So I could see them kind of being balanced and being, fairly efficient overall. And then on the Cowboys side, like, if if you're playing the Cowboys, you want an efficient Jaguars offense, not just to like push the game to score, but I think push the Cowboys to the air. Because I think, I don't know. They've literally not posted a positive pass rate over expected a single time this season. The only 2 other teams to do that are the 49ers and the 49ers. I'm thinking like old school 49ers. The Bears and the Falcons. So no one's more run heavy than the Bears and the Falcons at anything. So if you share something in common with the Bears and the Falcons and you have a functional passing game and a good quarterback, I think that's bad. So I don't now I'm kind of going into how this game fails, but I think this game fails if Dallas is conservative, which they have been all season.
Yeah, literally. You literally said it. No games have they tried to unleash the pass. I just don't buy that they'll ever do it. Never. We'll never see it.
They so should though. Like, you do have to bet on like some real stupidity. Like, truly, like, this is just like the game fails if Dallas rolls out a bad game plan. But it's live.
Last game that I think is on the board to be like a pretty chalky piece. Not surprisingly, it's Chargers versus Titans. Not an extreme team total, not extreme game total like the 49s that we've talked about previously. But 46.5 is like a little above average for this slate. It's basically where the cutoff is. After that, you drop 2 points to the next ones and then a few more points. And it's two teams that match up perfectly with each other. Chargers want to pass the football and now have their receiver core healthy. Titans get eviscerated through the air. And then the Titans want to run the football, are missing their best receiver, and face one of the worst run defenses. So they both should get to do what they love to. And that's a beautiful thing, even if it means it'll be very chalky.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, I guess the field's kind of figured out. Your haves and have nots setup for this is perfect. And I also am skeptical that people will be as happy to go to, I think, especially if Cooks is in, because then you lose the Chris Moore fun bring back. So the whole, in a weird way, I think Brandon Cooks playing probably impacts this slate in a pretty big way. Maybe not a huge way, but would push some ownership, I think, away from the Chiefs game. This game, it's a fun one, man. It's really, it's easy to imagine how it works out. We've seen in the past from Derrick Henry, a couple years ago, I had a GPP win with a Deshaun Watson double stack with a Derrick Henry bring back, and that's like that, like, it's a fun, I'll tell you what, it's a fun way to have a sweat where you're watching like a running back speed up the game. And I think Henry, he's not what he was 2 years ago, but like, dude, he hasn't really fallen off when you're looking at, he leads the NFL in yards per route run among running backs. It's kind of crazy, right? Like he's not a receiving backs because the explosive plays he's had this season. Some of them have come through the air. His breakaway yards per game numbers are still pretty good. And this run defense is terrible. The other thing I like about this on the Titans side is that their offensive line's not good. They're facing a Chargers team that has a very bad pass rush. So I think Tannehill, obviously, like, they're never going to lean on the pass, but Tannehill should be efficient, more efficient than he's been most of the time this year. So I'm thinking this offense is moving the chains, and then, that just sets up, it's more carries. So we could see a ton of carries for Henry here. This feels like kind of an old school. Maybe I'm just wanting it to be, one of these old school Henry games or something. But it does feel like these setups where, like, last December, the previous December, where we're like, oh God, are we going to fade him? Are we fading him? This is going to hurt. Those
games were terrifying.
I think this is one of those games we're just not as scared because he hasn't buried us yet.
Yeah, we haven't gotten, we've gotten one. It was versus the Texans this game. He kills the Texans, those poor Texans. So any other games you have any interest in on this slate? We literally have talked about every almost interesting game, but any others?
Not really. I don't know. I think that's the difficulty with this week. I tell you what, if Mike White was playing, or is that Saturday?
No, I believe that's on the slate. So we're talking about Elijah Moore.
Elijah Moore,
value. Yeah. Garrett Wilson's underpriced, but now he plays with Zach Wilson. But I agree. I think Zach Wilson ruins the game probably.
Oh, I'll give you one. The Bengals.
Bucs Bengals. Yep.
I think this is a good spot for Jamar Chase. I think like a really, really good spot for Jamar Chase. I think pretty good spot for Joe Burrow. Your bringbacks are probably not super fun. But
I mean, it looks like the Bengals could be without multiple corners this week. I know they already ruled one out. I forget who it was, but and the Bucs have had a positive pass rate over expected this year, especially when you look at when they got the receivers back. They don't do anything with it. They're the least creative team, but they at least have still tried. Gives them a lot of credit of more just like, hey, let's go out and throw the football. But even then, it typically is just they throw on every second and third down. On 1st and 10, they're still running it. But
yeah,
I think there's some hope with this team.
I gotta take him out.
If you actually want to take him out, I can answer questions.
All right, yeah, answer questions. Well, I want to hear the rest of your Bengals thoughts, and then you can transition to questions. I'll just let him outside. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go for it. Let me see. I'll rip some of your guys' questions. I'll try and rapid fire through it so we can get back to the conversation. I see a Driscoll question. If I skipped you, because I forget where I ended up last time. If I skipped you, I will, drop it in a second time and I'll get there. Where's that Driscoll question? Driscoll in my tight end or Dulcich? I think I'm going Driscoll. I mean, he played committee quarterback last week.
I think it's Driscoll.
When you said let your dog out, I thought you meant like take him outside to go to the bathroom. I didn't realize you meant just like he needed to leave.
No, we have a little backyard, so I literally just throw him out.
Oh wow, property.
Yeah. No, I don't own this.
Driscoll, right? Like he's a committee quarterback, and you can play him at tight end.
Yeah, I think Jeff Driscoll for sure.
Slayton or Palmer? I'll go Slayton.
I'll go Slayton.
What else we got with Mike White?
If Richie James is out, if Richie James is back in, I'll go Palmer.
Okay. Let's see. Watson versus Rams. Garrett Wilson versus Lions. I don't want to bench Garrett Wilson just because he has the worst quarterback in the NFL as his quarterback. But man, I think you might need to bench Garrett Wilson because he has the worst quarterback in the NFL as his quarterback.
I think. It's pick 2. Watson versus Rams for sure.
Yes.
God, man.
I'm going to Olave. Like you sold me on just how bad. Like I know Zach Wilson's bad, but I would have guessed he was closer to Sam Darnold than like twice as bad CPOE. So I'm going to Olave. Like they play similar roles too, which is why I feel.
Yeah, they do. No, they don't. They don't play. Olave's a deep threat, and Wilson's more of an underneath guy.
I just mean by air yard share and target share.
Yeah. They're the clear number ones for sure.
Yeah, clear number ones, and they can still like.
Let's go Olave.
Garrett Wilson had like 250 air yards 2 weeks ago or whatever. They were a bit juiced by some bad Mike White throws, but point being, the thing is like Dalton is a lot better than Wilson.
Mike White has a fractured rib, by the way, so we might be getting more Wilson. Actually, I'm advancing best ball teams with Zach Wilson, so
I noticed 1 or 2 of those in my teams as
I have
well.
10%.
Because Garrett
only 5% road job, but 10% Wilson.
Because Garrett Wilson dragged the Zach Wilson teams there, but
that's right.
I have Ramondre. Assuming he doesn't play, should I flex Deonta Foreman? Traylon Burks isn't playing either. He hasn't practiced all week, so it's just Deonta Foreman.
Yes.
Assuming Ramondre doesn't play, pick 2: Rashad White for Bengals, Zonovan or Montgomery. I'll go Montgomery here. I think chosen Montgomery.
Yeah.
And Zonovan. I'm fine with either. You can.
I think Zonovan. Rashad White. It's like it is full PPR, so he's definitely.
White's also running fewer routes than Lenny, though. Like he's getting more. I think they're actually dead even.
It's very split. It's very split.
I think
it's just like whoever's out there.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, you don't have to be the third down back to get targets on that team because Brady throws to running backs a decent amount.
Exactly.
But it is concerning. I think White only ran like 30% routes 2 weeks ago. I think he ran a little more last week. But, I kind of do expect him to get targeted at a high rate on a per route basis for a running back, obviously. So
yeah, me too. He's actually rating really well in open score. He's the best on the Bucs in open score, which tells you a lot
God
about
bless
how bad
him.
the Bucs have been.
I think we got that one covered. Garrett Wilson, Slayton, Pittman, Waddle, pick 2. I'm tossing out Slayton. I'll still take the guy like the number 1s over him. Let's see. Waddle in, right?
Yeah,
I mean the weather looks terrible, and Waddle's like target share has been plummeting lately, but I'm still going.
He's
Waddle.
also been banged up.
I'll go Waddle and Pittman.
Yeah, I guess Pittman.
Yep. All right.
Matt
T. Higgins or Waddle
up apparently.
T. Higgins or Jalen Waddle. I'll go T here.
So you're just trusting he's back.
Trust is a lot of.
Did he get in a full practice?
I think he did full practice today.
If he did a full practice, I'm with you. If not,
yep, he did.
Okay, all right. I'll go to you with a full practice.
Yep. Gabe Davis, George Pickens, Alan Lazard, Elijah Moore, Drake London, and Zay Jones. I think Zay and Gabe, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. Actually, Alan Lazard. I'll say like Zay and Alan Lazard.
I don't want Lazard. Dobbs is back. I think it's Watson, and I'm out. He's the only guy.
Yeah. You playing Gabe though? Gabe's terrible, man. He like does.
I'd play Gabe. He's not terrible. He does a certain thing. He's like MVS,
and the next time he plays like he's gonna get a different contract and different team, and he's gonna be dreadful.
Yeah, but he's like MVS was. He's like MVS was on the Packers.
Sure, yeah.
He's not MVS this year. That's a fair.
Yeah,
comp.
when you
The
have
Packers
Devontae
MVS.
Adams drawing coverage and Aaron Rodgers your quarterback, it is pretty good to look mediocre.
Yeah. So I think I'm still Gabe here. I mean, these are not good options. I'd probably go Gabe in London.
I'll go Gabe and Zay because like Lazard, whatever.
Yeah, maybe Gabe and Zay is the right move.
Yeah. Burrow or Fields? Fields.
Yeah, I think
Fields was like the best quarterback by a mile for a month stretch. Obviously, it's a month, but like he's going to have the best rushing season of all time by a quarterback. So I'm playing that guy.
All right, I'll play Fields.
Which tight end? Komet, Chig, or Conklin? Komet.
Yeah, I think this is Komet.
Kirk or Christian Watson?
Watson, baby.
Rodgers, Goff,
or
Rodgers, Goff, or Lawrence? I guess it's still Trevor.
It's Lawrence, right?
Yeah, I mean that game still has a good total. They have a decent implied team total. Like I think it has floor risk, but like so does Rodgers' team running the football 39 times, and so does Goff playing a good defense and a terrible offense on the other side.
Do you have any faith in the Packers? Because I will say the answer here should be Rodgers. Like you have to be very committed to running the ball if you're going to run the ball on the Rams. There's really no one should be running the ball on the Rams. They're not good against the pass. They're very good against the run. Yeah,
they're like number 2 in EPA, and they just got flipped by they might be number 1 actually. I don't remember.
They're the Titans. You can think of them like the Titans. Like if you go against the Titans and you're like, here's how we win this game. We establish it. We dominate on the ground. We dominate in the trenches. Like you're just not good at strategy games.
That was a really good Matt LaFleur impression.
Yeah, like don't ever play. Like
I think
you might know a lot about like blocking technique or something, but you should never be in charge of a strategy in your life.
I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to run the football.
I think they're probably going to do it. I think that's what they're going to do.
Miles Sanders or Christian Kirk? Sanders. Elijah Moore, DJ Moore. Go DJ.
You're in on DJ. You're back
over Elijah Moore. I mean,
oh, we got him. We got him.
I said on the pod, Elijah Moore is the worst Moore. He's number 5 in more power rankings.
You are on the record. I'm with you. I'm DJ. I'm also Sanders for the previous one.
Interesting. Andrews or Dulcich. Interesting in that Andrews has fallen this far. Not interesting fallen. Not interesting that I would choose anyone other than Andrews. Yeah. I would fade. I hope people keep playing Garrett Wilson because I would fade him if he gets to I had him projected for 20+% ownership. He's 1,500 underpriced on DK, but not with Zach Wilson under center. So,
God, he's so bad.
Let's see. Have Mixon, Barkley, and Knight, and Brian Robinson. Come on. Which 2 do you start? Come on.
Mixon, are we playing Mixon and Barkley?
Obvious. Come on.
No, I mean in DFS.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, actually, Mixon is not. We'll talk about it. And, we'll go a few minutes over. But, yeah, it looks like that's a good play. Fournette or Murray? I'm not playing Latavius Murray, so
Fournette.
You do you if you have to. Do you guys play Fields? I'm nervous. Vegas has him throw 0 TDs. We don't care if he throws TD. He's going to run for 102 touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm still torn on the Burrow versus Fields thing, I have to say, because it's a nice spot for Burrow. He obviously does have a ceiling, but I'm not worried about Fields. So if the question is do I play Fields over the non-elite options that you have? Yes, you do.
Yeah. Olave or Pacheco. This is interesting. All-time run spot for Olave's team. All-time run spot for Pacheco's team, but they don't want to run. You got teams. One team is probably going to flow with the grain of the wood, and Olave's team throw 15 times. Pacheco's team should. They will have the opportunity to run the football as much as they want. They're not lame. They don't do that stuff. So which one you pick?
Oh man. This is actually a really tough one. I think I'd probably play Olave. If it was my team, I'm just I'm playing Olave, dude.
Fair enough. I said last night, someone asked me George Kittle versus Dalton Schultz, and I was like, Dalton Schultz might be the right answer. if this is my team, I'm playing George Kittle. And we ran good last night. So let's see what else we got here. I'll try to pick some players we haven't talked about. This is disgusting. Deontay Johnson or Darius Slayton. I'm playing Darius Slayton. Couldn't pay me to play Deontay Johnson.
I'll play Darius Slayton too. What a world.
J.K. Dobbins.
Could you imagine it? That's one of those questions. Imagine if we were in August. Imagine if we were in the middle of August and you're like, oh, so Deontay Johnson's hurt. It's like, no. Oh, so like,
Darius Slayton got traded to the Chiefs. Of course. Giants made
did Pickens emerge? Did Pickens emerge as a target dominant? No, Pickens can't get targeted to save his life. So like,
Pat Freiermuth is the next Travis Kelce. Nah, he gets some targets.
Chase Claypool then? Chase Claypool's traded.
He's not on the team anymore.
To be clear, Deontay Johnson's target share is awesome. Is he not getting open? Is he hurt? Oh no, he rates 4th in open score. He's getting open at will.
Look,
but we can't play him.
Oh, he's so terrible, man.
He's not terrible. Deontay Johnson. He's very, very good until this part. He needs to work on this part of the game. Do more of this.
Oh, please end the season already.
Also, it's not. I mean, I don't even think it is the drops. I think it's.
Yeah, he actually hasn't. Like his drop rate isn't astronomical this year. I think it's been worse in other seasons. J.K. Dobbins or Christian Watson. I already have Brock Purdy and Jason Myers. I guess so. He's looking more of a floor play. I frankly still think Christian Watson's. I mean, like J.K. Dobbins probably technically is a better floor play, but I still think it is a better floor ceiling combo for Christian Watson.
Yeah, I think it's a better floor ceiling. I think it's a good spot though for J.K. Dobbins. I think he's a really nice kind of RB2. We have him in our NFC team. It's in the playoffs, and we need big performance from him in our RB2 spot, and I feel good about that. But I'm not playing over Christian Watson. Watson's locked in. I think is the number one option. I actually wonder if Watson might be. He's not on the main slate.
Showdown, baby.
What a bummer.
All right, I'll skip ahead, get a few more questions. Yeah, let me see. Seeing some Waddle stuff. Should play Waddle on that Saturday slate then, though. Try and find some like games or situations we haven't talked about. Let's see. Start 3, Zeke, Watson, or Connor. Connor's a good one. I will use this transition us into running back. Sorry if you didn't get to your questions. Tweet them at me or whatever. We got, I don't know, 2/3 the way through them. Pick 2 of 3, Zeke, Watson, or Connor. I assume it's Christian Watson, and I'll take Watson and Connor. Zeke's not a terrible, Zeke's fine.
No, I think it's Connor, though.
Yeah, Connor. And I use this transition as to running back because Connor probably going to be relatively popular. Although his team is starting Colt McCoy, he is either facing Russell Wilson, who's terrible, or Brett Ripien, who is somehow worse. They still have a pretty solid shot at winning, if not keeping a close game. And he is, since returning, his worst game has been a 71% snap share. He's only had 2 games, I believe, out of 5 under a 90% snap share. He runs routes, he gets targets, gets all the carries. And on DraftKings, he is 6,900. He'll probably be a top 5 on running back because he's in the same price range. Man, this is the worst part. Derrick Henry at 8K. He's only 1,100 more than James Conner. I get Conner is really good, but this, like you said, this feels like a Henry murders us type of spot.
Yeah. So I don't think this is if we're talking DFS, this question's still up, by the way, then I feel like we should be shooting for the huge, massive ceiling. And I just don't know, because it feels like that type of week to me. And Connor's not providing. If Connor was cheaper, then, I would be more interested, but Alvin Kamara is 6,800. Alvin Kamara, I think, could absolutely smash this week. You're talking about a team that's going to be run heavy, but is in a really good spot overall. The Saints should be able to move the chains through the air against the Falcons. The counterpunch should be working. The Colt McCoy counterpunch against a very strong Denver defense is not going to be that effective. So it's very touchdown dependent with Connor. He's going to get every single snap. He's obviously not a bad play, but I'm more comfortable fading him than, and I just don't know that the ceiling outside of he happens to score 2 touchdowns, I just don't think it's as high as Kamara, who's $100 cheaper. And then I'm also, I think it's a great spot for Derrick Henry. Josh Jacobs is always in a really good spot. Travis Etienne, I think, is does Connor have a higher ceiling than Etienne? I don't think he does.
I think it's possible, at least. We look at last week, 6 catches, He has had at least 3 catches in all but one of his past 5 games. He's not going to do like a ton with his receiving volume, but like ETN just hasn't shown an ability to draw targets.
That's true. Yeah, that's probably fair that he does. But it's
Yeah.
close. It's close.
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
saving salary, and he's a little less chalky.
Yeah, you could call it salary adjusted ceiling. They probably are the same. Maybe even Connor's less. One player I want to ask you about is Josh Jacobs, who's just been eviscerating. Pat said this, and it like almost doesn't sound right. It sounds like a college football stat. And eyeballing it, it's 100% right. Like over the past 5 or 6 weeks, Josh Jacobs is averaging over 30 touches a game. The only problem is this week, he gets New England defense that's second in fantasy points allowed, second in a bad way. For Josh Jacobs in fantasy points allowed to running backs. They are 9th in EPA per rush allowed, and they're trending in the right direction. They were actually a pretty easy-ish team to run on early in the season. They've gotten better as the season's gone on. So he is the workhorse of all workhorses in volume, but as a chalk running back in a mid-total game where they're just 1 point, like they could lose this game, and it's a bad matchup versus the defense. Like I kind of want to fade him and just play like a similarly owned big dog.
I want to play the big dog over Josh Jacobs as well, just because I love the spot for him. He was a cover boy of the walkthrough, so I'm very in on the big dog. But I will, just to defend Josh Jacobs, you called him kind of the ultimate volume guy. He is. He's 4th in running back 4 in expected points per game, running back 3 in snap share, leads all running backs in share of team attempts. But his efficiency is also really, really strong.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, rush yards over expected. He's 8th, 2nd in elusive rating, 6th in breakaway yards per game. He's been great. So I don't think it's not just like it's not James Conner. You know, he has a legit ceiling based on how well he's played this season.
He's like Dalvin Cook of 2020 with even more work.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it is a scary fade. Like, don't tell yourself too nice of a story about he's just volume. Feel the fear if you're fading.
Yeah, that's a good way to
really
put it. You should be
afraid.
Fear. You should be afraid.
You should be afraid. I think he's fine to fade, but he should be a scary fade.
I'll throw out some other, potential pivots. We've got Joe Mixon, who probably won't be popular. Didn't return to the full role last week, but I still think he outcarried Samaje Perine 14 to something like 4 or 6, which to me indicates that maybe we get back to, at least there's a pretty strong possibility that another week removed from the concussion, we get back to early season Joe Mixon. It's not a particularly good matchup, but his role was so elite that like I'll play. He's a fine talent. I'll play a middling running back with an extreme role if no one else is going to. I don't think anyone else will. So Damian Harris, maybe, depending on how this thigh issue turns out.
Yeah, maybe.
You got any other running back takes?
I like the Mixon one. Yeah, I don't see anybody else that's like really jumping out. Damian Harris, I think, would be good. Oh, here's one. Miles Sanders.
Yeah, I like that.
We talked about the Eagles, 6,500. Doesn't look like he's going to be chalky, and it's a start all your Eagles week. I think I'm going to have some Hurts, but I'm also going to have some Sanders without Hurts. The Eagles are going to put up points this week. I'm very confident about that. I don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but the nice thing is like it's not like the Chiefs where you're like, well, I'm going to make 100 lineups and I'll have the right combo in there somewhere. Like the Eagles are easy. It's going to be, AJ Brown goes off. Maybe Devontae Smith has kind of a high volume week. Or they just like go with the power run game and put the Bears away, and that'll be Miles Sanders. So I feel like there's only a few different realistic combos. And I think Sanders is going to help me build some other stuff. And if no one else is going there, I'm surprised that people aren't really eyeing him up.
Sanders is the exact same thing as Isaiah Pacheco, except he's better and will be less popular. Did I lose you? I think he's tending to the dog. I'll wax a little bit on tight ends. It's a dreadful.
No, you just nailed that. That's exactly what it is. I just had to let him in. It's raining out. I was like, oh boy.
He's just outside seeing you talk about Miles Sanders. He's like, Dad, please. You drafted 6% of him. You don't need to talk about him. I want inside.
He was happy out there, but I just heard him whine. So I had to go
tight end is a miserable position. I'm fine playing chalky Travis Kelce. He's just, like you said, elite receiver, eligible at tight end. I like pairing Cole Kmet. I won't be playing any Dalton Schultz. I don't care. They're going to run the football a ton. He hasn't had a 20-point game this year. I'm not sure he's ever even had he's had like 125-point game in his career. So fine not playing that. Tight end's terrible, man. I'm not playing Chig.
I'm not playing Chig. Chalky Chig can't go there. Half the snaps? No, we're not chasing.
Gerald Everett, too expensive to be popular. Maybe he's fine.
Okay, so everyone's going to play. I mean, Gerald Everett's fine, but we're just pretending the Evan Ingram thing didn't happen.
Yeah, I don't see him as being super popular. I've checked around a little bit and don't see that.
People are playing Lawrence and they're playing Zay, but they don't have any interest in Ingram. I'll play Ingram if no one else is gonna.
I mean, it's the same. It's been like that for 3 or 4 weeks where Lawrence, I haven't been playing because I thought he was too popular. But at my one caveat was like, Ingram doesn't look that popular. Maybe this is just something that the ownership algorithms can't quite account for. And he will be when the cards flip. But I haven't seen anyone say he's going to be popular. I haven't seen ownership projections say he's going to be popular.
I don't think anyone wants to mention him because it's like such box score chasing BS.
Yeah.
He's been so bad. And then he has the one game. It's all been in the one game. But like, if you look at his first 3 targets per route and everything, like he has a legit role in the offense. Like last week was obviously fluky to an extent, but it's not like it's fluky in the sense that it all happened in the same game. But he's had a meaningful role in the offense, and it's offense that does not have a number 1 target really. I mean, Christian Kirk is like their number 1 guy, I guess, but like I don't think we've put Christian Kirk in a single lineup with these start-sit questions.
Yep.
And and Zay, at this point, I think you make a case Zay's the number 1 guy, but like, what an uninspiring number 1 option, Like that's who I have to compete against for. So I don't know. I think Evan Ingram he should be annoyingly chalky at 3,800. And if he's going to be, I don't know, like 10% or something, yeah, throw him in.
Any other tight end takes?
I've already mentioned Cole Kmet. I like Cole Kmet.
It's a correlate your tight end kind of week. Hey, play it. If he plays in the game with your quarterback, play him.
Yeah. Freiermuth, I like if, I guess, health stuff, but also are we getting Mason Rudolph? But I think with Trubisky, Freiermuth's role is awesome. So I'd be somewhat interested there. I like the Gerald Everett call. I don't know, man. It's a bad week for tight end. I guess if I can find, is there anyone we can go really cheap with that just like saves us salary?
I mean, Mitchell Wilcox is still 7,500. He played a bunch of snaps last week and didn't do anything with them.
Yeah, I think he's in play. That's like the kind of thing I want to do. Like, because I probably will play a Burrow lineup, so maybe I'll just correlate that. Tyler Conklin's dead now.
Yeah, man. I mean, Austin Hooper I think he still ran more routes than Chig, or as many routes as Chig last week, and he would be supreme leverage.
What about Hunter Henry?
I was going to ask you if you knew if he ran like a close to a full allotment of routes, because it's the bottom 2 or 3 pass defense he's facing. So I was actually going to ask you. I wasn't entirely sure.
Let me pull that up because he's definitely like in an amazing spot.
Yeah, and the last thing we can, just bring up real quick is that this is just like ownership not updating early in the week, but Nelson Aguilar, Tyquan Thornton, super cheap and probably their team's top 2 receivers. And also, but the thing that made me think of that was that if they're missing both Devontae and Jacoby, I'm guessing we see like almost 2 and Ramondre, almost 2 tight end as a possible base for them, which would put Hunter Henry on the field a ton. So I like that.
Yeah.
Like that little call. Right.
Henry is only at 62% route participation last week, but he was at 79% the week before.
All right.
We can go there. We can go there.
And you can go find Pat Kerrane on Twitter at Pat Kerrane.
Read the energy there for a second with that.
Yeah, that's some Pat Darty energy right there. I've learned from the best at transitioning to things that aren't really related. Check out the walkthrough. DFS article will be up within the hour. So check out the site, the Thursday preview pod. Anything else you want to mention, Pat? If not, we'll dip.
No, yeah, check out the recap pod, check out the walkthrough, as you said. Check out Kyle's article on DFS. And we will be back here again, but I don't think next week. I don't think we'll be back here next week. We'll be back here in 2 weeks.
Deal. It's a done deal. See you, everyone.